we are not strict, we are not missionaries on that, we are pragmatic, as I said earlier.
For the Democratic Republic of Congo. So in summary, India has been showing us that 2023 can be a renewable energy tipping point. We now have the technology, we now have the capital, and we must ensure the continued political will to provide everybody on Earth with clean and affordable electricity. And so the challenge before all of us, ladies and gentlemen, is how we can bring this together into a self-sustaining system, which will take international cooperation onto a new scale. We at GIAC are excited to see Brazil's G20 vision of building a fair world and a sustainable planet. And we look forward to seeing renewable energy at the centre.
Then, of course, we have to look at the issue of adaptation. It was too long underestimated in its relevance for those countries affected by climate change, specifically those who have the least means to adapt themselves. And certainly we have to find a solution for the loss and damage fund. We are ready to make a deal, and as I said, we need to look at the world as it is nowadays, and what we refuse to accept, we will accept a lot, but what we refuse to accept is that the biggest emitters puts itself in shoes of Ethiopia or other developing countries. That's not true, that's not fair. They are part of the disaster, and so they have to be part of the solution. That's the requirement we have, and of course we want to help those who are most affected, the most vulnerable.
Petrol and diesel came down by 13 rupees and 16 rupees. The BJP ruled states, fortunately, also reduced their VAT, whereas the non-BJP states, from where the maximum decibel level of halla comes from, did not reduce their VAT. So we have this peculiar situation that in West Bengal, petrol retails 11 rupees 80 paisa more expensive than in a corresponding BJP ruled state. I've dealt with availability. I should have added that even when there were very severe floods in the northeast, our OMCs ensured that their people carried cylinders on their shoulders and made sure there was no shortage of anything. These days, I mean, I wake up in the morning, one of the things I'm looking at, like shortage. But if there is a shortage somewhere, it's due to a local, some problem arose in some place, etc. It's not a national problem. Now I come to transition. And here the story gets better. Because let's start with biofuels and biofuel blending. The Prime Minister set a target of 10% blending by November 2022, and the story in the public domain, everybody knows we were able to do it 5 months in advance. That encouraged us to bring forward our target for 20% blending from 2030 to 2025, 5 years in advance. I'm very happy to tell you we are today at 12% blending. Before I came here, I met one of our industry leaders, and I'm not going to take names, but everybody knows whom I'm speaking to. And I told him at that stage, I said, what really encourages me is that when I meet people, you are already looking at the 3 steps ahead. This is the private sector. He was asking me, may I share this with him? He said, we've got off to a very good beginning. What about feedstock going ahead? And I gave him an idea, and I think he agreed with me on that. Look, where there is sound planning, where there is goodwill, and where people are willing to address, now that you have a Global Biofuels Alliance, wasn't easy, by the way.
Yeah, I'm going to come to that.
No, let me complete this. The transition today, no one who's in anyone amongst your industry specialists sitting here actually is going to doubt whether we can do 20% blending by 25 or not. I don't think anybody's doubting that. Today the question is, and people are putting their money into it, 20% से आगे कितना जाएंगे और कब तक जाएंगे? So transition here. compressed biogas, same thing. Green hydrogen, and I stress that it's a story which is still just waiting to hit the public domain. Again, another company, I'm not going to name them, came to me with their collaboration partners a couple of months ago. And they said, we are on the verge of signing a major MOU or agreement with them. I said, kitna hai? When he told me, I also nearly fell off my chair. He said, sir, we will be producing 5 million metric tons per annum. So I said, oh, wait a minute, it can't be all green hydrogen. He said, no, 4 is green ammonia, the rest is hydrogen. But this is one this thing. I'm not getting into what the others are doing. Look, green hydrogen lends itself for success only in countries where in one place you have massive demand, where you have the capacity to produce, and where the proximity of the production center and the consumption center are in. ONGC 2038 is one of the largest companies in the world. 2038. GAIL 2040, BPCL 2040, HPCL 2040, Oil India Limited 2040, IOCL, 7th largest company in its segment 2046. 2070, say much before that, the ones which are dealing with fossil fuels and all the other toxicity that goes into it, they'll be net zero. This is my current information. I also throw, just to provoke you, as you grow, as your GDP grows,
You become more sophisticated.
absolutely. You see, because then you are able to do things in a more sustainable manner. The problem comes at the bottom of the growth, because then your devastation is more. You're using kerosene, you're using wet wood, coal, etc.
So you become a more efficient user of resources.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Sir, we have only a couple of minutes left, but I thought I will again take you to your open field in a new avatar. Energy politics. We have Europe, which has a conflict. We have Middle East, which is looking precarious. We have a Chinese demand that is not rising. We have OPEC and OPEC plus politics underway. How do you see this chessboard, and how is it likely for us to come out of it in a way that sustains our economic growth into the future?
It's very difficult to separate your self, I'm talking about myself, from the current assignment that you've been. Very difficult. If I were a free person and not having to deal with the current
Responsibility, the chair.
the energy and the petroleum and natural gas and the housing and urban affairs challenge, I would be more worried. But now that I deal with it for petroleum and natural gas, I'll tell you, you have just now 2 or 3 things staring you in the face. You have a supply. You see, the thing is, you are as a government required to set up an ecosystem. Once you set up the right ecosystem and the right messaging goes down, you don't have to do hand-holding, they'll do it themselves. And today, the fact of the matter is, there are very few countries like India where the potential for growth, forget about the growth just now, that is a given. But the potential for growth, no matter which way you're looking at it, is looking good. When I started talking about a $5 trillion economy in 2025 and a $10 trillion economy, some of the पूरे पढ़े लिखे विद्वान होते हैं ना, वो चक्रवर्ती क्लास के, they started saying क्या बोल रहा है, इसको पता ही नहीं है क्या है. वो आया था पढ़ा लिखा आदमी वहाँ पे गया, मैं इकोनॉमिक एडवाइजर पर एक ने किताब में भी लिखा. You know, have these guys got blinkers on as to what they are writing? Today you are a $4 trillion economy by December, but that's not the important story.
Of renewable energy can teach us something important. That one of the greatest barriers to a global energy transition is a lack of coordination. And this is especially acute in the global south. These are countries with some of the most abundant renewable energy resources on Earth, but efficient green technologies are not in place to capitalize on them and to provide cheap electricity to their young and fast-growing populations. And that's in large part because we do not yet have strong coordination between governments, businesses, civil society and philanthropy. So, infrastructure is not being developed into joined-up systems. Enabling policies are not in place to unlock private sector investment. And the right type of capital is not flowing to the places where it is most needed. So, what is the solution? We need to improve our coordinated approach. Achieving that will require us all to forge new models of cooperation and business not as usual, across borders, across sectors, across institutions, which is precisely what we at GIAP exist to do with urgency. We launched 2 years ago at the Glasgow COP with the sole focus to putting this approach into practice in the Global South, to get renewable energy working and scaling faster. We assemble alliances of partners from government to philanthropies to the private and public sectors. And these alliances take a comprehensive, systemic approach to designing financially viable renewable energy systems. And they align their expertise and their funding to build them. So, for example, one place where this new way of working is already underway in Africa is the Democratic Republic of Congo, where 80% of the population live with no access to electricity. That is 85 million people without any electricity. In February of this year, GIAP and USAID brought 20 leaders together from different organizations to create a common roadmap for national electrification, which we presented then to the government in July. This coordination is now helping to accelerate the rollout of solar grids across the DRC. As we speak, sites with the capacity to serve over 120,000 people are under construction. And by 2040, GIAP and this alliance